lost.
Hey guys, I want to talk to you about one of my favorite ways to fish. It has been for a really long time, and that is swim jigging. I'm on the lake that I grew up on. First bass I ever caught was in this lake, and it's where I learned how to fish fast. It's just how I grew up. Never had anybody show me how to bass fish. I just had to figure it out on my own. I was reading a lot of magazines like Fishing Facts and In Fisherman at the time, and Bassmaster eventually. I read a jig article and got real excited about fishing jigs. You know, I bought some stuff at a local store. I think it was Kmart. Found a jig, I remember, and some pork frogs in a jar, Uncle Josh. And I put that jig on and came out here, and the rest, as they say, is history. But what's interesting is I didn't really know exactly how to fish the jig or what to do with it. So ironically, up until that point, I'd only thrown spinner baits and buzz baits and stuff like that. So when I got the jigs, that's what I ended up doing, was casting them out there, trying to get accurate, you know, where I was throwing the spinner bait and just reeling it in. So little did I know at the time, 30 some years ago, that I was swimming a jig, but that's what I was doing. So I'm back on this little lake where I grew up, and I'm just gonna fish fast. That's how I used to fish, really, really fast, just cover a lot of water, try to make a bunch of real accurate casts. And I got two baits on. I always had a Texas rig, something that I could flip, and a jig for flipping out in the more open stuff and casting and swimming it. And that's what we're gonna do today, and see what we can catch. So fun. Swim jigs are fun because there's so many different ways you can do it. I like a white one. You see a lot of the pros and stuff using a white one. And it's pretty fun to fish because you can see it, not only when you're reeling it in, but you can see it in the air when you're casting. You can tell where it's going. And then a blue, black and blue, and a green pumpkin. Because the fish are finicky, and they're picky sometimes. I think the main thing swimming a jig, you don't want to get it in a hurry. Just take a minute to think. You know, you can kind of let it sit there for a minute, think about it, bounce it off of stuff, let it hang over stuff. Just take your time, work it through that stuff real slow. You can see I can get way back in there. Just yo-yo it over top of all that stuff. To places you cannot get with a spinnerbait. You just can't skip it back in there like that. But you don't want to yank it over top of those sticks and pull it out, you know, miss a foot of water. There's one. Yeah. For fishing like this, I like a 7.3, medium heavy, not something that's too stiff, because I'm using braid a lot. And I'm also gonna try slowing down, throw it back up in those dark spots and leave it sink down in. Kind of slow down a little bit. Just kind of leave it sit in there when you make that cast. Fish it deeper. There's one. Okay, so that's the first time that I did that and I got a bite, so. That's a nice one too. I'm using Terminator jigs now. They have a swim jig. It's got a real light wire hook. I actually like that jig a lot, but most of the time I'm using the Pro Series. It's got a heavier hook on it. It's got a nice head shape where you can flip with it or swim with it. It doesn't really matter. It's a nice all-purpose jig. I'm using an 8-3-to-1 reel. Oh, there was one. I missed him. Dang it. I'm more worried about just making the right, you know, that perfect cast. And that first couple of feet of my retrieve is usually, I mean, it's real important to engage your reel and be ready to set the hook right as soon as that jig hits the water. I mean, I clamp my thumb down on my reel, on my spool, real hard, let it slide up in there, clamp my thumb down on there, and I can actually set the hook with just the pressure from my thumb. I mean, I do that probably 50% of the hook sets or before I engage the reel. So this, I'm basically, that first couple feet is real shallow. I'm making that cast, getting it up in there, and I can see that jig the first couple feet, and then I kind of let it sink on the end of that cover. That was an awesome bite. Line, you know, sometimes I'll use fluorocarbon, like a 14 pound, but it's mainly when I'm fishing for spots or smallmouth. For what I'm doing here, I'm gonna be using a 50 pound braid. 65 is overkill. I've never broke one off on 50, and I like the Sufix Advanced 832. Came out a few years ago, and it's still the best braid on the market by far. Trailers, most of the time I like a flat, chunky type trailer. I don't use a swimming, you know, kicking craw type trailer. So I'd say like most of the time I'm using a flapping hog, and I'm cutting it down, making a jig trailer out of it. Taking this flapping hog, cutting off all the legs on it, just like that, and then making a trailer out of it like that. And for a lot of years, that has been my go-to jig trailer. Swim jigs, flipping jigs, everything. That's it right there. On color, you know, I don't think it's majorly important, but I feel like knowing whether it's black or white is the most important thing. And then I kind of look at that green pumpkin or watermelon as kind of like another option. There's one. He was right on the edge. And always throw back in there where you caught one. Always. That seems like a no-brainer, but it is unbelievable how many times they just keep on going. And another thing I do, anytime I'm skipping, I don't overfill my reels. That's why the high speed is important to me, because I'm losing some gear ratio by doing it this way. But you know, you can see some guys, their backing is right about to there. So less line is a lot better as far as like getting nice clean casts with no loops and backlashes and stuff like that. It's night and day. Swimming right at me. Choked it. That's why you need that high-speed reel. He hit it from behind. Started swimming 100 miles an hour right at me. A lot of them do that. A lot of the bigger ones do that. The bigger they are, the more likely they are to choke it from behind like that and swim right at you. There's one. That's what we're looking for. Come here, bud. Yeah. Nice one. That's swim jig fishing, the way I do it. Hopefully you pick something up. Get out there. Got some big old hogs. Yeah. So fun.